Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Victoria shares a private moment with a cornered Kane after Lily gives him an ultimatum. Sharon tells Nick at Crimson Lights that she can't stop worrying about Mariah because she is putting all of her energy into her profession and excluding her and Tessa. Nick tells her that his father made him buddy up with Kane in an odd attempt to lift her spirits. When he clarifies that they are extremely worried about Ashby, this doesn't make anyone grin. Chelsea finds out at Newman Media that Adam started the piece that exposed Billy's relationship with Aristotle Dumas and revealed that he is Kane. She surprises Adam by claiming that Billy was fair game because of his involvement. Billy arrives to complain about Adam twisting the knife before he has had a chance to feel any relief. Adam reminds Billy that the narrative is about Kane. Billy is upset about the Kane portion because pursuing him isn't a wise course of action. Attacking his character is careless, and it will come back to haunt them all. Adam questions whether he is merely serving as Kane's spokesperson because he is aware that he would give anything to obtain his fake brother's billions. Adam Chelsea Billy. Billy claims that Adam is so consumed by his animosity against him that he is unable to recognize the foolishness of this action. Adam keeps bringing up Billy's numerous shortcomings until Chelsea intervenes. Billy says it's kind of her to defend him. Adam makes the point that the Abbott is a yappy dog with no platform or authority. Billy leaves after taunting that it will make his victory lap even more wonderful. Chelsea says she despises everything about this in a relatable moment. Will Nick give Sharon a kiss? Kane's intimidation of the Newmans at Crimson Lights has Sharon in a panic. She asks, what is the worst he could do? I could get Chancellor, Nick says. Like everyone else, Sharon is curious as to how. Although Nick acknowledges that he's unsure, he heightens the tension by threatening that Ashby might target Cassidy first. Sharon tells Nick that she feels more connected to him than she has in a long time after gushing about him looking out for her interests. Is he feeling the same? Nick makes the decision to show her. Chelsea and Adam show up and interrupt, but he leans in for a kiss. Nick Adam, Sharon Chelsea. Adam notifies Nick of the publication of the story claiming that Kane is Dumas. Victor wants them to join forces with Kane, Nick reveals. Adam questions why he want the hit piece at the time. According to Nick, their father must be looking for a little good cop, bad cop action. It comes as no surprise to Adam that he is the evil cop. He doesn't mind that, but he wonders why Ashby is so intimidating to Victor. Chelsea declares, I'm tired of worrying about what Kane is up to. Speaking for the majority of us. Girl, we feel you. Kane and Lily's showdown. Lily demands honesty from Kane on the train, but he lies and says he just wants Chancellor. Lily is not convinced. Although she is aware that he is aiming for more, she has no problem with Victor and Nikki receiving what they are due. She threatens to tell the kids everything about Colin if he lies. Ashby, who finds it hard to believe she's sincere, cautions that disparaging his father won't help her achieve her goals. Lily restates that all bets are off until she receives the complete narrative. Kane Lily. Lily keeps warning him until Kane offers to share his ideas with her after they meet with Charlie and Matty. Lily laughs that she wouldn't have any more power. No bargain. They argue verbally until he informs her that she is to blame for his ruthlessness and the loss of his constructive impact. He tries to control her, but Lily sees right through it. Kane says he would drop everything he had planned and sacrifice everything for her. When Lily and Kane's phones begin to ring, they discover that he is Aristotle Dumas' victim. Lily bursts forth. The children will learn about it via a news website. Kane claims he'll take the hit when Lily goes crazy and attacks him, so Matty and Charlie won't be upset with her. However, he will require her assistance in repairing the damage. Lily will assist, but only if he abandons his plans to harm the Abbotts and Newmans. Adam's caution. Adam, Chelsea, and Sharon discuss Chance's passing at Crimson Lights, wondering why he was at the French chateau in the first place. The reason Kane believed he was being targeted remains a mystery. Adam believes Kane is somewhat off and mentally unstable. Adam observes that Sharon and Nick have become closer, and Sharon talks about enjoying a few pleasant moments in Nice. Adam cautions his ex not to allow Nick to harm her again as Chelsea and Sharon talk about their happy endings. Adam Chelsea Sharon. A close encounter. Victoria apologizes for not alerting Billy to the Newman media item when he gets to the tack house. He is there to see how the kids are doing, but he doesn't blame her. Did they witness it? According to Victoria, they haven't yet, but they are riding. Billy threatens to keep them safe no matter what happens. Victoria-Billy. Conversation on tea shifts to Cole. Billy cautions that the grief will surface even though he is aware of Victoria's hectic schedule and caring for Claire. Victoria acknowledges that Adam and Chelsea have been excellent. After making fun of Adam, Billy tells his ex that he is there for her. After Billy claims that Cole worshipped Victoria and that he wasn't mistaken, the two had a private time. Billy-Victoria. Swerving, Billy tells Victoria that Adam, of all people, calmed him down after he got into a heated argument with Nick in the coffee shop. Victoria directly inquires as to if he is entering into a business relationship with Kane. Billy pretends to be preoccupied with Abbott communication. Kane will do what? Ashby, who is upset over the abuse from Newman Media, urges Nick to get off Kane's train as soon as he arrives. By saying he's coming to apologize, Nick surprises him. Kane questions whether this is a joke. Nick clarifies that Adam made a mistake with the expose. Kane doesn't believe it. Nick tries to persuade him that he is showing compassion. Nick, the phone rings for Kane. Why and our Lily? She declares, "It's Matty." Kane, what is it going to be? Nick leaves after Ashby agrees to have a drink later. Lily asks Kane what he values most. His plan, or her assisting him in telling the children that he has been deceiving them for 6 years. She says, "The ball is in your court." Victoria stood in the tack house's warm lamplight, trying to process the mess that had been unraveling in Genoa City all week. When Kane Ashby's shadow finally darkened her doorway, he looked cornered, a man who had just come from a fight he wasn't sure he'd won, and she could tell by the way his jaw was set that Lily's ultimatum was still rattling around in his head. Hours earlier, Lily had confronted him on the train, her tone clipped and her patience gone, demanding brutal honesty about his motives. Kane claimed he only wanted Chancellor, but she saw through it, calling him out for aiming higher and warning that she'd spill every sordid detail about Colin to Matty and Charlie if he kept lying. Kane had warned her that disparaging his father wouldn't get her anywhere, but Lily had repeated, icily, that until he told her the whole truth, all bets are off. It was in that fragile space his pride wounded, his plans threatened, that he found himself in front of Victoria now. She, too, had been wrestling with family chaos, the kind of Newman-sized problems that never seemed to end. Just hours before, Sharon had sat across from Nick at Crimson Lights, worry etched deep in her voice as she confessed she couldn't stop thinking about Mariah, who was throwing herself so fully into her work that she was shutting out both Sharon and Tessa. Nick had explained, with a mix of bemusement and irritation, that Victor had insisted he buddy up with Kane, an odd move, supposedly to lift Sharon's spirits, but when Nick admitted the real reason was that the family was worried about Ashby, no one was smiling. Meanwhile at Newman Media, Chelsea had pieced together the truth that Adam was the one who started the piece linking Billy to Aristotle Dumas and exposing that Dumas was Kane. Instead of outrage, she'd coolly told Adam that Billy was fair game because of his own schemes, shocking him. But Billy, ever the wounded soldier in a war he partly created, stormed in to confront Adam about twisting the knife before he could even catch his breath. Adam reminded him the story was about Kane, but Billy was furious. He argued that going after Kane was reckless, a move that could backfire on all of them, and accused Adam of being so blinded by his personal vendetta that he couldn't see the danger. Their voices rose until Chelsea stepped between them, earning a half smile from Billy for defending him, though Adam dismissed him as a yappy dog with no platform. Billy had left with a jab about how sweet his eventual victory lap would be, and Chelsea, with rare honesty, had muttered that she despised everything about this mess. Back at Crimson Lights, Sharon had been in mid-panic over Kane intimidating the Newmans when she asked Nick, what's the worst he could do? Nick's answer, I could get Chancellor, had been as unnerving as it was vague. When pressed, he admitted he didn't know how, but suggested Ashby might start with Cassidy. Sharon had softened, saying she felt closer to Nick than she had in a long time, and when she asked if he felt the same, he'd started to lean in for a kiss only for Chelsea and Adam to arrive, the moment breaking but not before Nick closed the gap anyway. The interruption had bled into another round of verbal sparring. Adam told Nick about the Kane Dumas article, Nick revealed Victor wanted them to work with Kane, and Adam guessed their father was playing good cop, bad cop with him as the bad one. Chelsea had sighed that she was tired of worrying about Kane, summing up the mood of half the town. Meanwhile, Lily had been delivering blow after blow to Kane's defenses, refusing his offer to share ideas after they saw the kids, laughing off his attempts to charm her, and calling him out for blaming her for his ruthless streak. Then the breaking point had hit. Both their phones rang, and the news that the kids would learn about Kane's Demaar identity from a gossip site sent Lily into a fury. Kane promised to take the public hit so Matty and Charlie wouldn't hate her, but asked for her help repairing his image. Lily agreed only if he abandoned his plans to hurt the Abbotts and Newmans. In the background, Adam, Chelsea, and Sharon had been puzzling over Chance's death in France, Kane's paranoia about being targeted, and Adam's growing belief that Kane was mentally unstable. Adam even warned Sharon not to let Nick hurt her again. Billy had later shown up at the Tack house under the pretense of checking on the kids, assuring Victoria they hadn't seen the article yet, and then meandering into a surprisingly warm conversation about Cole, grief, and how even Adam had calmed him down after a spat with Nick. But when Victoria directly asked if he was going into business with Kane, Billy dodged, citing Abbott Communications. All of this swirled in Kane's mind when Nick finally caught up to him at Crimson Lights and unexpectedly apologized. Kane didn't buy it, assuming it was a setup, but Nick insisted Adam's exposé was a mistake and urged him to see the apology as genuine. The call from Matty had yanked Kane out of the moment, and when Nick left, Lily was there again, her eyes locked on him as she asked, "What's it going to be your plan, or my help telling the kids you've been lying to them for 6 years?" Now, standing before Victoria, Kane carried the weight of all those intersecting battles. She could see the exhaustion in his face, the tight coil of a man who'd been pushed into corners all day. She offered him tea, and as they spoke, the conversation slid from the polite to the personal. He admitted that Lily's threat had shaken him more than he'd let on. She admitted that Billy's support was a surprise and that Adam's machinations were wearing her thin. In that quiet Tack house kitchen, Kane almost smiled, not because anything was funny, but because the war outside felt, for one heartbeat, far enough away that he could imagine something different. Victoria didn't push for answers he wasn't ready to give, and he didn't offer promises he couldn't keep, but their eyes met in a way that said both knew this was more than a casual conversation. Outside, the night was still, but in Genoa City, the storm was only just gathering. Victoria lingered in the Tack house kitchen after Kane left, staring at the steam curling up from her tea. She wasn't sure what unsettled her more, his blunt confession that Lily's ultimatum had thrown him off balance, or the way he'd looked at her just before leaving, a mix of vulnerability and calculation. She knew that expression well. It was the same one Victor wore when he decided he might need an ally he didn't entirely trust. Out in the hallway, she could still hear the faint echo of his boots against the wood floor. A part of her wanted to call him back, to ask him directly whether he was plotting with or against her family, but she bit it back. Timing, she knew, was everything with men like Kane Ashby. Back in town, at Crimson Lights, Nick nursed a coffee he'd let go lukewarm, staring out the window as Sharon returned to the counter. She could feel his mind drifting and tried to bring him back to the present. "You've been somewhere else all afternoon," she said, sliding into the chair across from him. He gave her a crooked grin. "Somewhere called Kane Ashby Headache." Sharon smirked despite herself, but her eyes darted toward the door as though she half expected Kane to walk in again. "You're not seriously thinking Victor's little good cop, bad cop thing is going to work?" she asked. "No," Nick said, "but I am thinking if we don't keep him close, he'll keep us guessing. And guessing is dangerous." Chelsea stepped into the coffee house just then, her energy sharp, almost brittle. Adam trailed behind, hands in his pockets, wearing the faint smirk of a man who knew he'd just stirred up trouble but wasn't finished yet. "Well," Chelsea announced, "looks like Kane is having quite the day. The article's all anyone's talking about." Adam's smirk deepened. "He'll survive. Or he won't. Either way, it's news." Nick shot him a look that could have cracked glass. "You think this is a joke? You could be blowing up something you don't understand." Adam tilted his head, mock thoughtful. "You mean like your father's sudden interest in recruiting him?" "Yeah, I noticed." Sharon, sensing the tension rising, stood. "I'll get more coffee," she said, though the carafe on the table was still half full. In another corner of the city, Lily was pacing her living room, phone in hand, replaying her last conversation with Kane. Every word he'd said felt slippery true enough to sound convincing, but never the whole truth. When he'd told her he'd sacrifice everything for her, she'd almost believed him, until she remembered the dozens of times he'd said the same thing before and then gone right back to his schemes. The breaking news about Aristotle Dumas had thrown her, but not because she didn't believe it did. It was the speed of it getting out, the precision of the hit, that made her realize someone, somewhere, had been waiting for the right moment to ruin him. The fact that Kane wanted her help now, after months of keeping her at arm's length, made her stomach twist. Back at Newman Media, Billy barged into Adam's office without knocking, clearly still riding the irritation from their earlier encounter. "You're enjoying this too much," Billy said, crossing his arms. Adam didn't look up from his laptop. "And you're taking it too personally." Billy's jaw tightened. "He's not your brother, Adam. He's not your enemy. So why are you acting like taking him down is some grand victory?" Adam finally glanced up. "Because Kane Ashby doesn't play fair, and sometimes you've got to hit people like that before they hit you." Billy gave a humorless laugh. "Or maybe you just like burning things down, no matter who gets caught in the flames." Chelsea appeared in the doorway, arms folded. "Enough. You're both giving me a migraine." Billy turned to her, his tone softening slightly. "You keep defending him, Chelsea. One day you'll regret that." He stalked out, leaving a silence that hummed with unspoken history. Meanwhile, Kane sat in his car outside a downtown bar, phone in hand, staring at Lily's last text. "The ball is in your court." He hated the phrasing, it put him on the defensive, and Kane Ashby didn't like playing defense. But he also knew she meant it. If he pushed ahead with his plans against the Abbotts and Newmans, he'd lose her cooperation, maybe even her altogether. And yet, there was that other voice in his head, the one that sounded a little too much like Colin, telling him that power, once within reach, was too precious to drop. His phone buzzed. It was Matty calling. He let it go to voicemail, running his hand down his face as though that would erase the day's wait. Over at the Tack House, Victoria's phone rang. She picked it up to find Billy's voice on the line. "Just checking in. You didn't seem yourself earlier." She hesitated before answering. "I'm fine. Just a lot on my plate." Billy, sensing there was more, tried to prod gently. "If Kane's gotten in your head, be careful. He's not uncomplicated." Victoria almost laughed. "Billy, you've made an entire career out of being complicated." That earned a chuckle from him, but underneath, they both knew this wasn't about old banter, it was about a man they each understood in different, dangerous ways. In the coffee house, Sharon finally returned to the table, only to find Nick and Adam locked in another quiet, tense exchange. Adam was pressing. "You think Kane's not a threat because you want to believe Victor's in control. But he's not. And when Kane makes his move, it won't be in Victor's favor or yours." Nick leaned in, voice low. "If you're trying to get me to turn on my father, it's not going to work." Adam smiled faintly. "Just trying to get you to open your eyes." As the day wound down, the lines between alliances and rivalries blurred even further. Kane, caught between Lily's ultimatum and Victor's shadowy invitation, knew every move he made from here would define whether he stood alone or with someone, though whether that someone would be friend or foe, he couldn't yet tell. And Victoria, closing up the Tack House for the night, caught herself glancing at the door one last time, as though expecting Kane to return. Part of her hoped he wouldn't. Another part of her wasn't so sure. That night, rain streaked the Tack House windows, a soft percussion underscoring Victoria's restless pacing. She had told herself the conversation with Kane was over, but his voice still echoed, carefully measured, just vulnerable enough to make her doubt his intentions. She was pouring herself a glass of wine when her phone buzzed with a single-line text from him. "We're not done." She stared at the words, her mind instinctively cataloguing every implication. Was it a threat? A promise? Or both? She didn't reply. Across town, Kane sat in a dim corner booth at the bar, nursing a drink he wasn't really tasting. He could feel eyes on him. Genoa City had a way of amplifying gossip until it felt like a spotlight. His phone was on the table, screen lit with Lily's earlier demand. He read it again, not because he needed reminding, but because he couldn't decide which outcome bothered him more, losing her trust or losing the leverage he'd worked so hard to build. A shadow fell across the table and he looked up to find Nick standing there, rain clinging to his jacket. "You still up for that drink?" Nick asked. Kane gave a tight smile. "Sure. But I have a feeling you didn't come here for small talk." Meanwhile, at Crimson Lights, Sharon was closing up, wiping down tables while Chelsea lingered with her untouched tea. "You're worried about Nick," Chelsea said quietly, and Sharon glanced up. "I'm worried about all of it," she admitted. "Kane, Adam, Victor, there's too much going on behind closed doors." Chelsea gave a small laugh. "Welcome to my life." For a fleeting moment, the two women shared a rare, almost conspiratorial smile before Chelsea's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression tightening. "I have to go," she murmured, slipping out into the night without another word. At Newman Media, Adam was alone in his office, the glow from his computer screen painting him in cool blue light. He was scrolling through messages from an anonymous source, information that could shift the entire Kane situation if released. He leaned back, fingers steepled, debating whether to pull the trigger now or wait until Kane made his next move. Adam thrived on timing, and tonight, every instinct told him the board was just starting to heat up. Back at the bar, Nick and Kane were deep in a quiet, pointed conversation. "Victor thinks you're an asset," Nick said. "I think you're a risk." Kane swirled his drink slowly, eyes never leaving Nick's. "You don't know what I am," he replied, the words calm but loaded. "And maybe that's the point." Nick leaned back, studying him for a long beat before standing. "Just remember, once my family decides you're a problem, it doesn't end well for you." Kane's smile didn't waver. "Maybe. Or maybe I'll surprise you." By the time Nick stepped back out into the rain, Victoria was still staring at Kane's text, Adam was still plotting, and Lily was still waiting for an answer she wasn't sure she wanted to hear. In Genoa City, the night was far from over.